Albert is the character that is essentially speaking for the modern day audience watching this thing. He's aware of how terrible this is, and he at first he seems to be the only one who has the perspective to see what a terrible place and time he was born into, and to have a negative appreciation for it. You know, the other facet to his character is and the idea that this is, you know, essentially what a nerd would be like in the Old West. It's at its genesis a guy who gets dumped by his girlfriend that he thought he was going to marry, and essentially has to try and win her back. There are elements of this movie that are a little bit like an 80s high school comedy in how the story is structured, and that's a deliberate choice. It's a way to make the Old West feel like it's relatable to today. With Charlize, from the first meeting I had with her, she got what this was. It's a very specific tone that occupies this Goldilocks zone between comedy and romance, I suppose. And she just got it. I mean, she was. It's like she was wired into my brain. And she's obviously a phenomenally talented actor. She got an Oscar, for Christ's sake. And she has a great presence that felt like it would be something that would really bring this character to life in a powerful way, and she just knocked it out of the park. Amanda, again, you know, is a great example of somebody who is perfectly cast, and so you don't even have to worry. There was the scene on the log where she's talking to Albert. I remember thinking, God, this girl is really nailing it. Like she's the world's she's the world's greatest actress, or she really has cut down a bunch of guys like this. And Amanda's very, very sweet, so I quickly learned, well, it can't be the latter. She's just extremely good, and her instincts are phenomenal. She's just a great performer. Foy was the hardest character to cast in this movie because he was the one character that had to be slightly heightened. He had to be slightly bigger than the rest of the world, but at the same time, he still had to be grounded. You had to believe that he was a genuine threat to Albert, that he wasn't a cartoon villain that you just don't really buy. And it was a really hard nut to crack. And finally, one day, we hit on the idea of Neil Patrick Harris, and he was just brilliant. You watch Neil perform, and you think, God, this is one of the most all-around talented humans in entertainment. It's crazy. It's like you're watching one of these actors from the 40s who can kind of do it all, and you know, he can act, he can sing, he can dance, does it all beautifully. You have to believe that the bad guy is a threat, and Liam did it masterfully. You know, surrounded by all this craziness, he was able to really do that Peter Graves airplane thing of just locking into the reality of the situation. And it's one of the hardest things to do in comedy. There's so much of a temptation to make things wacky, and the really skilled, smart actors are the ones who can look at the situation, look at the script, and say, "Oh, okay, now I get what this needs." And Liam is one of the things that makes this, under all the jokes, a real Western. He was a phenomenal villain. He was a great bad guy. Anna changes Albert in that they click over the same hatred of the West. Anna hates the West just as much as Albert does. The difference is that she has a confidence that he lacks, and she's able to, she's in her own mind reconciled her hatred of the West, and she's able to she's able to be happy to some degree, which is a skill that Albert has not achieved yet, and it largely comes out of her confidence. What he what he sort of inadvertently teaches her is that she doesn't have to date a douchebag, that she's worth more, which is a very contemporary theme. We sort of thought of that as a nice universal idea that spans a good lesson that spans the centuries.